Because of everything that went on during the 2020 season, there was an extra year of eligibility granted to all college football players. There have been many quarterbacks who have taken advantage of that, and one of those includes Sean Clifford. It seems like Clifford has been at Penn State forever, but we have now reached another crossroads in his career. This past weekend, Penn State struggled against a bad Northwestern team. Sean Clifford's play was not great, and it once again raises the question, at what point will they move on into a new quarterback era? That's what many are wondering, and some are calling for Clifford to be benched for good. In today's video though, I want to talk about the guy behind him. He's a 5-star recruit, was arguably the top high school quarterback, and has so much potential that he could be the guy who saves Penn State football. We're going to talk about his story, what's gone wrong for Clifford, and what I think is going to happen moving forward. But before we get started, be sure to hit that subscribe button as we're on the road to 100K. Leave a like if you want to support the channel, turn on notifications so you don't miss when I upload, and give me a player or topic I can cover next. Now, let's get started. In order to understand how Drew Allar comes in the mix, let's first talk about Sean Clifford. Yes, there has been a game or two at Taquan Roberson and Will Levis over the last few years, but for the most part, it has been the Sean Clifford show since the 2019 season. After becoming a 4-star recruit from St. Xavier High School near Cincinnati, Clifford came in with a lot of hype in 2019. He was now the starter, and he led them to a 7-0 start. Unfortunately, the season would fall apart a little bit at the end, but he'd throw for 2,654 yards with 23 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. That was a pretty decent stat line, and many expect him to get better. We had the whole 2020 thing happen, and that's when Clifford would regress. Penn State would have a terrible losing streak to start the season, and Will Levis even got a chance to play. He threw for 1,800 yards with 16 touchdowns and 9 picks. All his numbers went down. 2021 was no different. He was back as the senior starter, and while his numbers weren't horrible, Penn State was not playing to their standard. He threw for a career-high 3,107 yards, but with only 21 touchdowns and 8 interceptions, he really wasn't getting any better, and with them losing games to schools like Illinois, Wisconsin, and Michigan State, Clifford was going to have a short leash in 2022. He ended up beating out Christian Valou for the starting job. It's truly been a mixed bag. In week 1 against Purdue, he had the most quiet 5-touchdown game in college football history. I was personally there, and Clifford did not look good at all. They had a miracle pass before halftime, had 2 touchdowns where there was missed tackles, and then he had a dump-off pass to win. He also had a rushing touchdown, and combining all that with a little bit of luck, they went on the road and beat Purdue. This was a huge week 1 win. Then he had 2 more touchdowns against Ohio in week 2. Clifford was off to a career start, but then when they played another good team, he crumbled. He went 14 of 19 for 178 yards without a touchdown and interception in the passing game against Auburn, but despite that, their 1-2 punch at running back destroyed the Tigers defense and won them that game. Clifford would bounce back with 4 total touchdowns against Central Michigan. Before this past weekend, he'd go back to his old self. Northwestern is in a dark spot. They've lost to both Miami of Ohio and Southern Illinois. With this game being at home for Penn State, it was supposed to be easy, but midway through the third quarter, this game was still close. Clifford ended up going 10 of 20 for 1 touchdown with 1 interception. He had a QBR of 37.9, the offense wasn't moving, and at one point, it looked like Northwestern could win this game. So far in the year, Clifford has thrown for 1,030 yards with 9 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He also has 4 rushing scores, and this makes his stat line look a lot better than he is. He's been struggling with the same issues he's had since the 2019 season, and if Penn State really wants a chance at winning the Big Ten, Clifford's just not going to get the job done. Add in the fact that he's already in his 6th year, and many are wondering, why are we wasting our time on a quarterback who's pretty much hit his ceiling and his eligibility mark? Ultimately, the coaching staff will decide what happens and not the fans, but if Clifford has another performance like his Northwestern game, I would not be surprised to see more of Drew Allar. I watched him play a series against Purdue, and this guy just has the look, the physical body, and the measurables to be a good college football quarterback. But who is Drew Allar?
We need to go back in time. Football has always been important to that family, as they have been Cleveland Browns season ticket holders since the 1960s. The joke in the Allar household was that around Christmas, if you were bad that year, Santa Claus would bring you Pittsburgh Steelers gear. Yeah, that rivalry is pretty tenacious, and that is why Drew was extremely confused when he got a Steelers towel when he was younger at Christmas. He thought he had been good. All jokes aside, Drew loved football at only 5 years old, and it was the only thing he could think about. At one point, a kindergarten teacher said he would have to go to Sunday school. Allar asked what that was, and the teacher replied by saying he was going to learn about Jesus and the various saints. Drew's response, quote, "They're going to teach me about Reggie Bush and Drew Brees, ? Yeah, football was a big deal to him, but no one ever thought he would be a quarterback. His dad played linebacker at Eastern Michigan back in the day and would coach Drew up in football. He didn't want to be one of those coaches whose son was the quarterback, so he tried to make him become a linebacker or a tight end. Yeah, he was alright there, but his calling was eventually the quarterback. Going into his freshman year at Medina High School, he was a long and lanky junior high tight end linebacker who loved to hit people. His high school coach figured that he would grow into a pretty good varsity linebacker or a tight end, but there was one problem. The team needed a starting quarterback, and to everyone's surprise, Allar wanted to try it. At the time, he was both a great baseball and basketball player, and when Drew decided to make the switch to quarterback, his travel coach was very skeptical. He said, quote, "I remember the summer before our freshman year, he missed one of our travel baseball games because he had to work out with his throwing coach. I'm thinking, you're not going to play." Now, he's Mr. Football and going to Penn State. So before we can get to that, we have a little bit more to cover. As a freshman, he would rotate with another quarterback, but going into his sophomore year, he was finally going to be the guy. He would emerge as the true starter in his second year, and at that point, he was projected to be a good MAC-level quarterback. Then, he got a trainer and developed a mindset that would take him to the next level. Despite the world falling apart in 2020, he was always on Zoom trying to meet with his quarterback coach, and he wanted to get better. His coach said, quote, "That blew me away. It takes a very self-motivated kid to do anything on his own. He physically got better, and he got better at throwing the football. It was the way he emerged during that time that was such a stunner." Drew always watched film with his dad, but he would view it at a different level by the end of his high school career. And because of that, most of the time, Drew was actually calling his own shots and not letting his dad, aka the coach, do it for him. He had a good mindset, but was he even a decent recruit? He would debut with an 85 overall ranking according to 24/7 Sports, and by the time he became a junior, he was the number 642 player in the country. That was pretty good, but not as good as he become. Allar would throw for 2,962 yards and 26 touchdowns in 2020, and that's when he would start to blow up. Midway through his junior year, Texas offensive coordinator Mike Yurcich actually reached out to him and watched him. This would become extremely important later. Despite all the tremendous quarterback talent in the state of Texas, Yurcich wanted Allar. I guess he could see the future pretty well. The two of them would have a great bond, with Drew going on to say, quote, "It was easy to talk to him. I think his personality really attracted my family and me just because of how open he was during my recruitment process. Because of everything going on, he could not make any official visits, but he got to sit down for lunch with Sean Clifford, and the next day, he was ready to commit to Penn State. He chose the Nittany Lions over the likes of Michigan and Notre Dame, and that Ohio State offer had never come to the home state kid. But why Penn State?" He said, quote, "Growing up in Ohio, it has always been a dream of mine to have the opportunity to play and compete in the Big Ten. Thank you to Penn State offensive coordinator Mike Yurcich and head coach James Franklin for believing in me enough to give me the opportunity to play football for such an incredible program." At the time, he was only a mid-4-star recruit, but combining his good camp performances and his trainer posting a 2-year transformation mixtape, Allar would blow up into a 5-star recruit. He finally gained that Ohio State offer as well, but the winner of the Mr. Ohio Football Award was going to stay loyal to the Nittany Lions. He was constantly asked about it, and it definitely annoyed him, and that's why he said, quote, "Yeah, there's been a lot of people asking me about it, especially over the past 2 weeks, but nothing has changed, and nothing will change for me. That's how I look at it. I'm locked in." His senior stats popped off the page as he completed 305 of 509 passes for 4,444 yards and 48 touchdowns, and had a 60% completion percentage. He also had nearly 400 yards and 9 touchdowns on the ground, so he could do a little bit of everything. In terms of recruiting history for Penn State, he is the best quarterback since Christian Hackenberg, and is only the third 5-star quarterback to ever sign with the program. According to 24/7 Sports, they're a little bit lower on him, as he is still a 5-star, but only the number 4 quarterback and the 32nd best player in the class of 2022. There are some sites who are obviously higher on him, and I think 24/7 Sports themselves actually has him as the number 1 quarterback. The composite is the one that is a little bit lower. So he will now be taking that 5-star status to State College, and he will have extremely high expectations on his shoulders. How do I think he's going to do? Well, personally, I think he's going to end up being the backup, as he is better than Christian Valu, and Taquan Roberson obviously transferred. Bo Pribula is also another 2022 quarterback who joins him, but Allar is definitely steps better than him. If I had to take a guess at what will happen, is that he will end up becoming the backup, and if Clifford starts to struggle or Penn State has a bad year, he'll be thrown in, and Franklin will start worrying about the future instead of his 6th-year graduate senior. That's personally what I want to happen, because I'm kind of tired of Clifford being there, and I do want Penn State to be good again, and I think Allar definitely raises his ceiling. What do the scouts have to say, though? We're going to read off 2 quotes that scouts have to say, and honestly, it makes me think the hype is pretty warranted. 24/7 Sports analyst Cooper Pitogna said, quote, "If he continues to develop and becomes more of a consistent passer, there is no reason 3 or 4 years from now he can't be the first quarterback to hear his name called in the NFL draft. That is a testament to how good he seems to be." Another scout compared him to a guy who's an NFL superstar, and his name is Josh Allen. He said, quote, "The arm strength, the arm angle, the big physical body, and the ability to make plays, that is in line for him. Josh Allen does have different athleticism right now, but Drew is definitely on track." Alright, comparing him to one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL was pretty good. So what are Drew's goals for his time at Penn State? He said, quote, "I'm hoping to win a couple of Big Ten championships, make a trip to the college football championship, and hopefully win a national title. I'm looking forward to building this team."
The Drew Allar prediction you heard just a minute ago in today's video was actually from my documentary about Allar back in January, but honestly, to this point, it looks like it's starting to come true. Allar is the clear backup, and Clifford is starting to struggle. Allar has a ton of potential, while Clifford has pretty much hit his ceiling. We're getting to the point in the season where Penn State is still undefeated, and both a Big Ten championship and college football playoff appearance are not over yet. The odds of them making it with Clifford, in my opinion, are pretty low, but with them being undefeated, both overall and in conference play, there's still a chance. It sort of reminds me of the Kelly Bryant, Trevor Lawrence situation, or even the Jalen Hurts Tua situation. I'd say Clifford's more of a Kelly Bryant than a Tua, obviously, but we're getting to that point in the season where it might be worth the risk. The Lions have both a good team now and a good team in the future. They have a 1-2 freshman punch of Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, and those guys at least have 2 more seasons in Happy Valley before they're even eligible for the NFL. Currently, the Lions also have 3 really good receivers in tight end Brenton Strange, wide receiver Parker Washington, and wide receiver transfer Mitchell Tinsley. I'm a big fan of all 3 of those players, and combining that with what seems to be a better offensive line and a great running back room, this is the perfect time to get Allar comfortable in the system. The next 3 games are going to be crucial for Penn State. They have a bye week before they go on the road to number 4 Michigan. After that, they get Minnesota at home before they get Ohio State at home. Those are the 3 best teams they have left on their schedule, and if they want to make the college football playoff or win a Big Ten championship for this season, it's now or never. So what should they do? I am no expert, and I could end up being dead wrong, but in my opinion, I think you prepare both Drew Allar and Sean Clifford over these next 2 weeks to both play against Michigan. Michigan has a great defense, and both Clifford and Allar are completely different players, so if you have both of them going out there and playing, there's a chance it could confuse the defense, and whatever guy is playing better, you roll with. Then, if Allar plays better, then he already has 5 games worth of experience, and he's probably ready for that home game against Minnesota. From there on out, he'll probably have the confidence to start the remainder of the season, and while I don't think he would beat Ohio State as a freshman, getting him that experience would be crucial. Right now, Penn State could easily win 10 plus games, but if Clifford keeps up that inconsistent play, I don't see any reason why they'd beat Michigan, Minnesota, or Ohio State, and then games against Maryland and Indiana aren't going to be a walk in the park either. But what the heck do I know? If you're a Penn State fan, let me know what you think of the quarterback situation, let me know what you think of Drew Allar, and what's going to happen for the remainder of this year. Be sure to let me know down below. Leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my other videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.